The harsh and absurd realities of early settler life. Part 2.
Wilderness wardrobe and hygiene hurdles.
Let's talk fashion and feeling fresh. Forget the romanticized images. Early settler style was less frontier chic and more whatever hasn't completely fallen apart yet. Your fancy European clothes, probably wool, which was great for warmth back home, became mobile saunas in the humid North American summers. They trapped heat and sweat, leading to chafing that would make a modern marathon runner wince. All that chopping and building was tough on clothes. Wool, being super absorbent, happily soaked up sweat, dirt, mud, and rain, turning your outfit into a stiff, heavy, and deeply uncomfortable second skin. The constant wetting and drying basically put your clothes through a tiny, destructive torture cycle. Seams popped, threads snapped, and everything frayed with alarming speed. Getting new clothes was rare, involving long treks or waiting for a boat that might not even arrive. So, mending wasn't a chore, it was an essential life skill, practically an art form. Every patch, often made from scraps of other worn-out clothes, told a story of survival. Nothing was wasted. Your needle and thread were just as important as your axe. Laundry was a whole production. Clean water meant hauling heavy buckets from freezing streams or dodgy wells. Washing wasn't a daily habit. Soap was usually a harsh, homemade-like concoction that cleaned things but also probably attacked the fabric, and your hands. Scrubbing involved beating clothes against rocks or rough washboards. Drying was a gamble against the weather, just hang your wet clothes on a bush and hope for the best, and that a squirrel doesn't steal them. It made modern laundry seem like a spa day. And personal hygiene. It was a challenge. Bathing wasn't a regular thing. Heating enough water was a massive undertaking. So, baths were infrequent, usually cold, and probably not all that thorough. The prevailing scent of the era was likely a delightful blend of wood smoke. Everything smelled like smoke, sweat, constant hard work, damp earth, everywhere was damp, and general exhaustion. While they probably didn't use the term personal space as we do, living in close quarters with less than ideal hygiene likely created a natural form of social distancing, whether they liked it or not. Basic comfort and cleanliness were luxuries that took a back seat to simply staying alive.
Nature, beautiful, majestic, and occasionally out to get you.
Yes, the New World was stunning. Giant trees, sparkling lakes, flowery hills, picture postcard stuff. It looked peaceful, promising. But under that pretty surface, nature was basically a full-time personal trainer determined to break you. It was beautiful, majestic, and definitely had a wild side. Big scary animals were a constant worry. Bears could ruin your day, and your food supply. Wolves howling in the distance were a creepy soundtrack to your evenings. Mountain lions were the silent, stealthy nope creatures of the woods. You had to build sturdy fences, carry guns, and generally live with a low level of "oh God, what was that noise?" But honestly, the little things were often worse. Mosquitoes and black flies. A biblical plague in insect form. Constant biting, itching welts that made you want to tear your skin off. Your days involved a lot of swatting, rubbing questionable plant gunk on yourself, and standing in smoky fires just for a moment's peace. These tiny vampires also carried diseases that were a complete mystery to everyone. Ticks. Tiny, silent hitchhikers of horror. They'd latch on, feed silently, and potentially leave you with some truly awful, untreatable illness. Finding one burrowed into your skin was a special kind of awful. Snakes. Stepping into your boot and finding a snake was guaranteed to improve your heart rate significantly. Even non-venomous ones were startling. The venomous ones were a straight-up emergency in a time with no emergency rooms. The weather was a drama queen. Summers could be brutally hot and sticky, making any work feel 10 times harder. Then bam! Violent thunderstorms that flattened crops you'd worked months on. Or lightning strikes that could turn your entire world into an moving inferno. Winter was just a whole different level of misery. Piles of snow that buried everything and cut you off from the outside world. Bone-numbing cold that seeped into your flimsy cabin, making hypothermia a constant threat. Food became scarce, and shivering was a primary form of exercise. Getting lost in the endless forest was terrifyingly easy. No trails, no GPS, just a whole lot of identical trees. Wandering around, praying you were going the right way, while your meager supplies dwindled, it was a masterclass in feeling utterly insignificant. Then there were the injuries and illnesses. Cutting yourself while chopping wood wasn't just a cut, it could turn into a nasty infection with no antibiotics. Breaking a bone could be a life-altering disaster with no proper medical care. Childhood diseases, easily treated today, could wipe out families. Even a bad cold could be life-threatening when you were already weakened. Doctors were non-existent. You relied on questionable folk remedies and hoped for the best. Nature wasn't just a pretty picture, it was a relentless force that constantly reminded you how fragile you were.
Community, togetherness, whether you like it or not.
Starting a settlement out in the middle of nowhere was a huge gamble. You absolutely needed each other to survive, chopping trees together, building houses together, planting food together. There were too many threats to face alone, from angry wildlife to just the sheer overwhelming wilderness. This wasn't some kumbaya moment, it was pure, unadulterated necessity. This we're all in this together mentality did create strong bonds. But the price you paid was basically zero privacy. Homes were small, often with multiple families crammed into one room. Everyone knew everyone's business, all the time. There was no escaping people, no quiet corner to just be alone. This lack of personal space could grate on your nerves and lead to tension. Arguments were inevitable. A pig getting into your garden. That could start a feud that lasted generations. Borrowing a tool and breaking it. Instant drama. Limited food and resources. A constant source of low-level anxiety and competition. Living in a pressure cooker of shared hardship and no privacy meant nerves were always a little frayed. Even community gatherings could be a trial. Long, boring sermons in freezing meeting houses were less about spiritual enlightenment and more about seeing if you could sit still for that long. And since houses had no soundproofing, you were intimately familiar with your neighbors' snoring patterns. You depended on your neighbors for survival, absolutely. But the limited resources also meant there was an underlying tension, a quiet competition even among friends. Surviving in these early settlements required not just muscles, but serious mental toughness and an impressive tolerance for discomfort and uncertainty. From crazy weather to deadly diseases, they faced stuff that would send a modern camper with all their fancy gear running for the hills, probably crying. Yet, they stuck it out. Their sheer stubbornness, their grim determination, and yes, probably a healthy dose of dark, gallows humor about how truly awful things were, laid the groundwork for everything that came after. They were too busy just surviving to really appreciate the view or the historical significance of what they were doing. But their legacy of resilience and sticking together, even when they probably got on each other's last nerve, is pretty incredible.